You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans, America's largest mortgage lender. Spring will be here soon, so if buying a new home is on your to-do list, right now is the time to call Quicken Loans. Learn about which mortgage options make sense for you and get a jump on your competition. With our exclusive Rate Shield approval, the low rate you lock today is protected for up to 90 days while you shop for your new home. With a Rate Shield approval, if rates go up, your low rate stays locked. But if rates go down, you get that new, even lower rate. Either way, you win. Talk to us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com to take advantage. Here's another great reason to work with us. For a record 9 years in a row, J.D. Power has ranked Quicken Loans highest in the nation in customer satisfaction for primary mortgage origination. Again, to lock in today's low mortgage interest rate and get the security of our exclusive Rate Shield approval, call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
For J.D. Power award information, visit jdpower.com. Rate Shield approval only valid on certain 30-year fixed-rate loans. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. License in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
Hi, welcome to the Subway ad for the new Sesame Ginger Glazed Chicken Signature Wrap. How would you like it?
I'll take a...
Sports announcer at home?
Yeah, how'd you...
We just know.
My wife picks up the new Signature Wrap. It's got double the rotisserie-style chicken mixed with a sesame ginger glaze. She appears annoyed at me, but she shrugs it off. Those sweet and savory flavors are calling her name. She lifts the wrap and she takes the bite! Incredible! And now she's closing the door on my... Subway, make it what you want.
Limited time only at participating restaurants. Double meat based on average 6-inch sub.
I'm little teapot, short and stout.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
No, Dad, like this. When I get all steamed up, then I shout, tip me over and pour me out.
This is WWE superstar Roman Reigns. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Visit fatherhood.gov, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@radio.com.
A purple mountain majesties over the fruited plain. But now wait a minute, I'm talking about America, sweet America. You know, God done.
Hey everybody, how you doing? It is Monday, June 3rd at 9:04 p.m. Eastern. You are listening to Immediate Release. I'm here. I'm Bill O'Reilly. I'm here with Liz Neuer-Feld. How you doing tonight, Liz? Hello, love, I should say.
We're live. It's 9:05 on the East Coast.
It's
and the sun's getting so late right now. I just realized today I was driving down from Boston, actually, and at 8:15 the sun still hadn't set. It was beautiful. So I guess we're just about coming up on the longest day of the year in about 10 days.
God, it always freaks me out when it comes and then you realize it's going the other way already. You're like, we just got here, But it's that is pretty amazing. Again, it's still light. It's still a little bit light outside, a little bit.
It just hasn't been very warm this spring, as we all know. So it seems a little. It just seems odd that it's so sunny and bright. It's beautiful. It'd be nice to have a couple of 80-degree days in a row one of these days. So one of these weeks. So we can look forward to.
I shouldn't jinx it. I mean, if the climate is changing, it seems to be certainly, in some parts of the country, crazy things are happening. In the Northeast, it's getting wetter and cooler, which is kind of nice. I mean, we haven't had a drought for a long time, but I'm sure I'll pay for saying that.
So I was just listening to Christiane Amanpour actually on the radio, giving her summary of the president's visit to London today. He's obviously over in Europe for the 75th anniversary of D-Day, but he spent today in London with the Queen, and also I guess tonight he's going to be with Prince William and Kate Middleton, who I adore.
Yeah.
But he got a wonderful reception from the Queen, and Christiane was remarking just that they have actually have quite a warm relationship, and that the Queen just plays such a unique role in the world. You know, she just does not get into any of the pettiness and any of the nonsense. And the President Trump was very deferential to her, even bowing, and it just she has this calming effect. Was really Christiane's point, that despite all the nastiness right now from, nasty op-ed from the mayor of London, right on the evening of the president's arrival, and the president having certainly his own very well-known opinions about Brexit, and on, that the Queen is the Queen, and she is sui generis. I mean, it's remarkable the influence she can have in such a positive way.
I noticed before that they have that rapport. You're absolutely right. I saw stills from today, but no video. But it's funny because what strikes me is that the Queen, and this Queen, knows what's a show and what's not a show, and she's been around a long, long time, and has been doing that wave since the 1930s. And I think I think if Trump were to wink at one person on the planet, it might be she that he winks at. She gets the game. She gets what he's doing, and I think maybe even gets a kick out of him in some way. They really seem to get along. You know what I mean? And he definitely appreciates her stature, and she's never going to take a shot at him. I mean, she's too dignified. She wouldn't do it. Even if she wanted to.
Yeah, over the course of her 60 years, she has seen it all.
She's seen it all.
She has seen it all around the world. So, others may sit and, get all ruffled over every single tweet or every single comment or everything that this president says, but this Queen has seen it all.
Right. Total perspective. Long game. She sees the long game.
I wonder what role she's playing with Brexit and what's gone on. And I don't know what her relationship was with Theresa May, not that we'd ever know. But the last couple of years have been very tricky.
It's a great question. I have no clue, and I don't know, and I'm sure there are people on the inside in the UK that do, but certainly it hasn't been publicized. I would think, and I may be totally wrong, but I would just speculate that there would be some support for Brexit from the Queen. Just a little, just out of national pride, a little bit. But I may be totally off. Charles definitely not. But I think the Queen appreciates the singularity of Great Britain, and has seen what that can mean to the world, and may want to keep some more of it.
Well, it's interesting. But you know what? I guess what we can agree on is that we're never going to know, because she will never show her hand.
But how old is the Queen now? I could just look it up, but
she just turned 92. I remember she had her 90th birthday a couple of years ago.
Right. Do you remember the Olympic thing when they had her coming down in the parachute, which is just one of the great things. Just the fact that she let them do that. It's just pretty amazing.
I know.
And it's funny because she had taken such a beating over Princess Diana. I mean, there was a lot of unhappiness with how the royal family dealt with Diana, and I remember her popularity had suffered, and it seems to be since then it's been just steadily on the ascent. Where I assume it will stay just because of pure respect for longevity and position.
Yeah, and she might have learned some lessons from that herself. Did you see the series, The Queen, by the way, with Claire Foy as the Queen? It's wonderful. You would love every minute of it.
I think I saw a few minutes of it. My wife watched it, and I think she liked it very much. She likes all the British stuff, and I kind of walked by and took a look. But I have not seen it, but it sounds like it's pretty great.
It's a binge watch. You've got to watch it. I wonder, do you think that by and large that people in this country admire the monarchy, I should say, and have any, or even think much about it or have any strong feelings, just because, there was a lot of talk, I don't know if it was 10 years ago or how long ago, about the relevance of the monarchy, and look how extravagant they are. There was talk about the money and the excess. I never felt that way. I think it's a beautiful, wonderful thing, and I love it, and I think we should have more of it.
I never felt that way either. And to me, the monarchs themselves and the royal families, I would take it as a curse if I had to go through and live life that way. And it's a duty and a responsibility. And I mean, I'm sure it'd be fun for a day, but just a day, because it's a brutal schedule apparently, and just the rules of it and the protocol and the are stifling on living your life. But yeah, I think Americans have always liked it, although we certainly didn't want to go that way, and that wasn't our tradition, and it was expressly it was expressly not to be our tradition. But I think Americans do like the monarchy. I think they get a kick out of it, just like the British do. I mean, not to the same extent, but I think it's an object of permanence in the world, culturally, that gives some solace, during rocky times.
No, I think that's right, and I think first of all, what you said about the sacrifice that they make, when you look at the kind of charity work that they do and the influence that they have just on the arts and on social issues, and certainly on the underserved, underresearched. A lot of what they do is extraordinary, and I think actually very quiet, remarkably. But it's tough to. I agree with you. I don't know. I could enjoy those tiaras for more than one day. You said you do it for one day. I could do more than one day. But
well, people, you have I had a daughter who wanted to be a movie star for a while, and as a lot of kids do, and I was always saying what a terrible thing it would be. It wouldn't be so bad. It would probably be okay. But a movie star can disappear for a year and go off and run into the woods or go hide on the beach someplace. But and I know the royal family can get away too, and they have lots of escape places, but not in the same way. Like they're required to be around, that they've got to show for everything. And it must be just brutal. I mean, the way they have to eat and stand and sit and and answer and hold their tongue constantly. They're constantly holding their tongue. I'd go nuts. Maybe that's the Irishman in me. I couldn't pull it off.
Well, how do you feel about how this next generation of royals is actually handling modern politics and modern culture? You've seen it started a little bit with Prince Charles and Diana, obviously, but you really see now with Prince Harry and Prince William how open they've been even about mental health, their own mental health issues. Just to put one thing out there, certainly Prince Harry's wedding to Meghan Markle. It's interesting balancing the tradition and all of the import that comes with the monarchy, with all being much more connected to what's going on, frankly, on the ground every day, both over in the UK but around the world.
Yeah, I mean, without watching it too much, I don't really follow it other than just as a regular consumer of the news. But my sense is that they're managing to pull it off. Like it is different. It is a different world, and it's a much faster world, and it's a much shallower world and quick moving, which is faster. But I think they seem to be pulling off. They seem to maintain the stature while being accessible as 21st century people. So it feels right to me, but I'm no expert.
Well, if you read People magazine as often as I do, you'd be up on all of them.
I think we have it lying around the house. I'll have to take a peek. Either that or us. Is it U.S. or us? Is it us?
Oh, I don't have that.
I think I paid for the subscription. The prescription, I was going to say.
Speaking of monarchs and monarchies, let's talk about what the new betting, what the pool is looking like. What's the latest in the Democratic primary sweepstakes about who's going to be anointed at the convention?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I hadn't looked for a while, and I thought for the show I'd just take a quick peek at the betting market for the presidential race and everything around it. There's other other markets as well for Congress and the Senate and the rest of it. I used to watch something in the late 1980s or early 1990s called the Iowa betting market, and it was done by the University of Iowa, and the maximum you could bet was $100, and it was done as a scientific experiment to see to test whether putting money up would improve polling. They wanted to do a free market thing where people actually put their money where their mouth was and then compare the results to polling. And in the early years, it actually came out better than polling. And so I would often, refer to it, in various talks and other things. And
that was 3 candidates, not 23.
Right. It was a long time ago. right. Not 23. So Predicted is, and there may be others now, but Predicted is the one that I check when I remember every 5 or 6 months, and it's a betting market. I think it's done out of, is it, I don't know, Irish or English. It's probably illegal to bet in the U.S. on this one. I'm not sure, but you could certainly do it. And their markets are pretty good. They're very interesting to watch. If you looked at some of the forecasters that do kind of mathematical models, they had Trump winning the race handily, not handily, but I think the 9 top ones predicted that he would win. This actually has the Democrat winning, like an unknown Democrat winning. Where is this? He pulled this up by a margin, but I'll walk you through the numbers. So, okay. Actually, you know what? It just dropped, I think. The thing just, well, I'll go through it. So Bernie Sanders is trading at 31 cents. Joe Biden's at 31 cents. Bernie Sanders is 17. This is based on 100. Everything is based on $1. So so it's no surprise. It is Biden's leading the pack at 31, which basically matches his polling. Sanders second, Warren, Buttigieg, and Harris below that. They have, for Donald Trump is at 42 cents to be the presidential winner, though, and Joe Biden's only at 20 cents. So they predict that the Democrat wins the election, but Joe Biden's only at 20 cents. Which is interesting. I would bet it more, but basically the way this works, and I'm kind of mashing this up, is you buy the contract at where it is. So it's all based on $1. So say, Liz, you wanted to buy 5 shares at Joe Biden right now, you'd pay 20 cents each. And if so you put in $1, and if it won, you'd win. If you won, you win $20. And so people could throw tens of thousands of dollars at this, as long as they could find someone to take the bet on the other side. But it's very interesting. People could take a look. It's predictit.com, and I'm sure a lot of people know about it already. But there's all kinds of questions, impeachment questions. Will Trump be the GOP nominee? It's only at 86 right now. So if you think that's a slam dunk, you'd make 14 cents for every $1, there. But there's a lot of interesting stuff here. They even have Hillary Clinton running. Will she run in 2020? It's there's 14 cents says she does. So, crazy markets.
Oh God! So they ever predict those freezes go away? But how many people would you say are participating in this?
I would say, let me look at the trade volume here. We take a look, and I haven't looked at this for a little bit. Trade volume. Sorry, my internet has been a little bit slow. Probably in the tens of thousands, not the hundreds of thousands. But somewhere in there. But I think significant money trades. There's 189 markets right now for U.S. elections, and you could bet on elections around the world. You could bet on the Trump administration, who's the next one to go. You could bet on how many tweets the president does on a weekend. Who controls the House, who controls the Senate. But it is pretty interesting because statistically these things do bear out pretty well. Because when people are betting with money, they're looking at the best information. Which party wins the presidency in 2020? It's 55 cents on the Democrat right now, 46 on the Republican. So that's really just, if you did a poll, that's straight 55-46. Is it based on 100?
Did you say that this was accurate? They predicted Trump as the winner of the last cycle?
That's I don't remember. I need to look at, I may, during the show, maybe I'll try and look up where it was at the end. It was a lot closer than I thought it should be, and then he went and won it. Because I assume, she was up by 8 points or something, or 9 points the week before, and it was tighter than that. They had it tighter than most of the American national polling, And I don't know whether he broke 50 on before election night. I don't. It's a great question. I'll have to check it.
One of the reasons I asked is because there were so many Trump voters who would not tell any pollsters that they were pro-Trump. In the same way, they wouldn't even tell their next-door neighbor because they didn't want to fight about it. We've talked about this a lot. But if you're betting, you're anonymous, and I just wonder if these guys were on it before the CNN, let's call it.
Yeah, I'm actually taking a quick look at it to see if I can get any information. And that's, it would be interesting to see that. But they make it, they even had dropout market. Well, Trump dropped out by October 31st. I'm looking at the 2016. I think they had it. They actually had it as Trump, that he was the likely winner. Isn't that interesting?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's fun to look at, whether you bet on the stuff or not. I just go on there to take a peek at the prices and check where it's going. Although sometimes you think, boy, I could make a killing here, and then some weird things happens in the news, and you realize you would have been wiped out. So it's fun to look at. It's predicted.com. In U.S. elections, you can click on.
Well, speaking of predicted, I saw the Boston Globe yesterday. I don't know if the Times ran the same piece on Elizabeth Warren's popularity in California. And the headline was actually that Kamala Harris, is not a runaway with the primary out there, even though she's been elected statewide several times by very significant margins. And Bernie Sanders is also doing fairly well there, but Elizabeth Warren's doing particularly well. And even more so in the context of the fact that she has no paid staff in California. She's the only one. Bernie's got quite a crew. Harris has, people everywhere. And Elizabeth Warren, her message is really getting through. And she's been out there a lot, and she's had a very, very enthusiastic crowd. And it's not to say that Harris has not, but she's not a runaway by a long shot. And in fact, a number of course, the article, the reporter interviewed a number of people who had initially been for Harris and said that they're just not so sure, and they actually love what they hear from Elizabeth Warren.
You said to watch it. You've been saying that consistently, and I'm getting that feeling now too. Is that and I think she's maxed out at some point just because of the Pocahontas thing, which I know sounds silly, but she seems to be running the best campaign right now. She's putting out policy paper after policy paper. She's working hard. She's doing the rallies, all the retail stuff. She seems to be running a presidential campaign the way it has to be run, and is hanging in that pack. And I think she needs she would need a breakout moment to get a break. But that's interesting about California. I mean that could be a tremendous win.
And so as you know from the beginning, I've always thought she's not electable nationally because she's too angry, and I don't think people like the angry candidate. But what I've noticed about her, but we've also, as you said, we've talked about distraction in her. I guess I first saw it in one of her televised town halls a couple of months ago, maybe it was MSNBC. She relates to her audience. And it's interesting. Maybe it's the teacher in her. She knows how to make a point without lecturing. I still think she's angry and shrill, and as you know, I don't agree with her on most things. But she's clearly so more than well-informed. She's absolutely erudite on the issues. And she also is just looking a little more joyful. And maybe that's because she's starting to feel the results of all of this work. Or she's getting, she's playing off the crowd or whatever it is. So rather than just ranting, she's actually looks like she's having some fun. I saw her marching in, I think it was, it's Gay Pride Month, or Pride Month, May was, and she was in a parade the other day, and she was downright effusive. And I thought, wow, you just don't see her laughing that much.
Because if you're going to be effusive, it may as well be there. But
right. And this is not a sexist thing, because there are plenty of men. I don't see Bernie Sanders laughing at all. I mean, he's the angriest.
Has he ever laughed? Maybe he had a good chuckle in Moscow. He must have,
The angry man.
And then the Menshkovich said,
Right, so this is not meant to be sexist. I think if I had to bet right now, if I were sitting with the $100 you just talked about, or the $1, let's use the $1. I think the top four are Bernie, Biden, Bernie, Elizabeth Warren, and Kamala Harris will be the last four standing.
That's really interesting. And by the way, I'm glad you brought it back to this because I just checked for the 2020 Democratic nomination. There already have been 30,200,000 shares traded. So it's not an insubstantial market. And so I want to look where she is. I think you're definitely right. What would by the way this works is that okay, so say you put money on Elizabeth Warren and she moved up, you can sell at any time. So if you buy Elizabeth Warren at 15 cents or 8 cents and she moves up to 30, then you sell and you can get out and then reinvest or just take your money. So that's how it works. It works like a stock market. It's a real stock market. Right. So I am trying to find her. Where is Elizabeth Warren in this to see where would you put her, Liz? If Biden's at 31, where would you think Warren is? It's not a fair question because I'm catching you blindsided, but
I would say she was 15.
Yeah, she is. God, why can't I find her on here? There's her picture. That's probably about where it is. Maybe. She's at 16% for being in second place on August 12th. So why can't I find this straight up? But but it's something like that. Like I think you're right. I'd be long on Elizabeth Warren here. I don't know that she could go all the way, but I think she's a good investment.
Think she'd be a good VP pick for Biden, just in terms of vote? Getting the left. Will she get the way left out if she's?
It's a really interesting idea. Yeah, it's an interesting idea. They cover gender, which is maybe that's considered an insult for the VP slot, but it's something. And then you get the left. That's an interesting idea. I was assuming that it would be like if it were Biden, it would be Biden Harris, but Harris doesn't seem to be doing anything.
Yeah, she doesn't.
What do you think? What do you think? There was a long piece over the weekend. I think it was in Politico, and it was about Kirsten Gillibrand and going through. And I don't even mean this about Senator Gillibrand. Did you see that?
No, there's nothing to say. I watched her on Fox last night with Chris Wallace for an hour, and she literally has nothing to say.
Has nothing. Yeah. So you're like she has. I mean, I know who her advisors. I've worked against them in New York, and they're pretty good advisors. And she's won big campaigns in New York, which the Politico story, cites. She won by the largest margin statewide of anybody in New York history. Which is, maybe a lot of that has to do with the times, but why does someone fall completely flat like Gillibrand? Like that campaign is just not moving. It's at 0.02%. And you think she's New York. She's got access to a huge media market. She's got a really solid team around her that's been with her for a long time. Is it just her personality?
No, I don't think it's a personality. I think I'm on record about how I feel about her. A couple things, because you bring up a great point. Last night, she waxed on and on about how all this you just cited about her success in New York in her last two races. She was elected to Congress in a red congressional district. Of course, there was a whole scandal around the guy she ran against at the time, John Sweeney. So, but nonetheless, she won. She's won by record margins, beat more than 70%, right, in the last two Senate races.
Yes, that's right. Yep.
We're talking about New York State. So let's just get real here. The New York State Republican Party hasn't launched a viable U.S. Senate candidate in a while, unfortunately. And I'm not saying someone that's not worthy of it. I'm just saying viable because of the politics of New York.
Yeah, so it's almost 2.5 to 1 now, Democrat to Republican.
I'm not disparaging anyone who's run. Randy Long or David Malpass. I'm just saying there's just no shot, period, full stop. So Kirsten Gillibrand, her citing those statistics would be like me saying I won the New York Marathon. Meanwhile, I'll be the only person running the race, and they would have given me 4 days to run it. It's ridiculous. So someone needs to, that's just not going to sell. Secondly, Billy, she doesn't have a message. I watched her for an hour last night. Her message is, number one, I'm a woman. Number two, we need more women's voices to be heard. Number three, we need more intersectionalism, which she had to actually describe what that word even meant to the audience and to Chris Wallace.
Right.
And before, she hates Donald Trump.
Yeah.
She has nothing to say.
All she's ever done that I can recognize is women, which is fine, but give me something else. It was just she's just a broken record on it, and didn't say anything when the most powerful Democrat then in New York was covering up sexual assaults in the state legislature. Then she didn't say anything about women.
She said nothing about anything.
Right.
She's a hypocrite and a fraud, and I actually am pretty encouraged that the voters have seen that in her. They're not responding because she doesn't have anything to add to the conversation. And I'm not sure, I don't know how the rest of her colleagues feel about her. She was very supportive of all the other women running in the primary. She kept making a point of saying there are 6 women running, which is great for women. She talked about how she had raised $7 million or gave out $7 million from her PAC to female candidates, and how successful the midterms were. And she was a big part of that. And we know she has. She's a good fundraiser, and she did campaign for a lot of other candidates around the country at the congressional level. But, she's got the Homes Fund story. Her grandmother was, the anointer, anointer in chief in Albany when Kirsten was young. And as far as Democratic politics went. And that's what, she sort of grew up seeing a strong woman in her family make a difference. And that's what inspired her. So she tells that story a lot. I've heard that before. And then she talks about how she tells her young boys not to abuse women and that it's never okay to grope or touch someone like Al Franken. I mean, the story, Billy, it's so thin. I know I sound snarky. That's what it is.
Wow.
She had nothing on policy that was different from anything you wouldn't read, all the pablum Democratic talking points. So nothing. Yeah.
I mean, just to back up what you're saying about that interview, well, there was the big televised interview, and then there was the big Politico profile, and I think there's been a couple more recently. She's now trading, to stick with the market, at 1 cent, and she dropped a penny yesterday. She was at 2 cents and dropped to 1 after the interview.
Yeah.
So it gives you an idea of how that went. By the way, I finally figured this out. Elizabeth Warren's at 11 cents. She's 11 cents.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where's Bernie and where is Kamala Harris?
Sorry, I finally figured I had a little glitch on my screen, and so Biden's leading at 30 cents. He's down 1 penny. So again, if you wanted to buy Biden, you're buying 100 shares of Joe Biden at 30 cents. It would be $30, and if it wins, you win 300. No, is that right? 3,000. It's whatever. It's based on 1 to 1 on the pennies. Bernie's at 17 cents. He's number 2. And then Buttigieg is 3rd. Buttigieg is at 15 cents. And to give you an idea, Andrew Yang is at 9, Gillibrand again at 1 cent. Buttigieg, Kamala Harris at 11, Elizabeth Warren at 11, Andrew Yang at 9, Hillary Clinton at 5 cents. Went up 2 cents. Like, how is that? You think that's the easiest 5 cents you ever made, right? You go on there and sell 1 million shares of that, and you win. You make $5,000 or $50,000. You just need the $1 million first. Cory Booker 4 cents, Beto O'Rourke 4 cents, Klobuchar 3 cents, Tulsi Gabbard 3 cents, Gillibrand 1, Castro 1, Hickenlooper 1, Inslee 1, Bullock 1, Andrew Cuomo is in the market actually 1. Zuckerberg's in there. They throw all kinds of kind of bizarre candidates in there. Bloomberg is still in there, but some of them they're not accepting any bets.
Hey Bill, hang on just a second. We lost Liz.
Oh, yep.
I'm trying to get her back on now.
Okay, yep.
She's actually trying to call me, so I'm going to have to hang up on her so I can get her added back into the actual call. So hang on just a second.
Oh, great. Thanks. Yep. I'll keep babbling about the survey in the meantime.
That long.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Hey, Liz, how you doing?
Somebody disconnected me. It's probably Verizon. I'm so sorry.
I just finished it, and that's my take on life. Ta-da!
Well, you put me in your will. I thought that's what I heard you saying in your will. Sorry about that.
So I basically went through it. Everybody under Tulsi Gabbard is at a penny, but it is.
She's been sitting. So that's an excellent point. And we'll close on this. Kirsten Gillibrand's been a sitting senator for 6 years, and she's at the same percent as Tulsi Gabbard. No one even knows who Tulsi Gabbard is.
Tulsi Gabbard is trading at 3 times what she is.
Oh,
she's at 3 cents.
And
right?
Yeah.
And Andrew Yang,
who I know several people who support him.
Right. I mean, he's certainly engaging, but it's like I can walk into any bar in New York and find someone engaging. You know, but
no, not every bar. But I know. Yeah.
not some of the best ones.
Yeah. So let's switch gears for a second. So there seems to be in the last 36 hours a lot more talk about the I word in Congress. Mm-hmm. Nancy Pelosi seems I don't know that she's coming around to it, but in the politics of this is she's I think partly posturing, hoping that there's enough hue and cry that she says, okay, I have to. But there certainly does seem to be more talk about it. What are you thinking about it?
I think then I was shut up about predict it. The odds are 29 cents right now that he'll be impeached by the end of 2019. It's 71 against 29-4. I think it would be a terrible idea for the Democrats, and I say that thinking that you know in theory there's enough there where you could impeach. You could there's enough there. You know, I think in the Mueller report, but I think it could be catastrophic for the Democrats just for the obvious reasons. I don't think you have to go through the machinations to finally to see it. You know, the Democrats do the big show. Everybody goes into their camps. It goes to the Senate, and the Senate votes it down, and it looks like a terrible loss. I mean, there's just no way to get around it. And there's Trump the whole time just bashing away at what will look like a waste of taxpayer money because everyone knows it's not going to go anywhere. I think it would be a really dumb move. It would be dumb. The censure that, you know, Peggy Noonan, you alerted me this morning to the president going after Peggy Noonan. I thought her idea was a viable one.
Which was censure?
A censure is an appropriate thing. If someone, you know, was doing things that look like obstruction of justice, do the censure if that's what you can get. And it's, you know, it is no legally binding thing, but it says, okay, there are rules and you're really supposed to follow them in the White House. I think everybody can live with that.
Yeah. Well,
what's your take on the impeachment?
Well, you know, it's interesting. What I was thinking about this afternoon was, you know, some people who are saying that the Democrats are weak not doing it. But one big question is, do you have do the Democrats or would anyone elected official, do they have an obligation to put the politics aside and actually vote on the moral case or the legal case here? The fact that it's such an open discussion that it's all around the politics, first of all, I think it just undermines the ultimate outcome of their decision one way or the other, because now the president or the Republicans are all going to say it was all about politics. So they've kind of shot themselves on that front. But do you feel like that's the politics of it all should be a very big factor in weighing whether to do it or not? Or do you think that really everyone should try to be as objective as they are supposed to be and vote on the substance of the claim?
It's exactly the right question. I mean, isn't that the right question? I mean, it's you know, what you should do, you know, constitutionally is probably pursue this because there have to be rules for everybody and no one's above the law, whether the president's a Democrat or a Republican. You know, that's what should happen. But the politics always gets in the way. Like you're asking what I would do. I wouldn't even know. I don't think I would pursue it because I don't think it would be worth the disruption because you know it's going to fail.
So
total cop out?
Right.
Maybe.
When you say disruption, are you talking about that it would hurt the country so much that you think that there's just enough doubt or not just doubt, but there's enough gray space here to say, you know what, this will not be good for the country for the next year. We're going to have an election right around the corner.
Yes.
Let's let it play itself out.
Yeah, and I think there's the right to common sense within the spirit of the Constitution, where there's no benefit to doing it. It's not box scores. We don't keep track like that. If the president, if there's cause to set up impeachment hearings, I think you have to know that there's a realistic chance of having them, what's the term that they do? Confirmed or convicted, by the Senate.
Right.
So yeah, I agree. Then nothing would then happen. Not that anything will happen, sadly, but nothing would then happen between now and the election. You basically be giving up on any domestic policy, on any kind of bipartisan agreements, infrastructure. You could throw it all out. You may throw it out anyway, but you're not going to get anything if there's an impeachment procedure going on.
Do you think then this question, and I'm just thinking of this as you're talking about this, becomes the threshold question for every single down ballot candidate next year, which is, do you think Trump should be impeached?
So you should be the moderator of the panel. It's just a brutal question. How do you answer that? I mean, it's a brutal question.
And I also think it's actually it's brutal for Democratic primary candidates. I mean,
yeah, it is.
It is. And I'm not just talking about presidential. I mean, down ballot, or yes or no. And you got to believe that that's going to be a big problem for these Democratic primary candidates.
Yeah, you're absolutely. I hadn't thought about it, Liz. That is in the first debates in June. That is going to be, the first or second question.
Yeah,
no question.
Buttigieg today, by the way, said yes, he should be. I know Elizabeth Warren has. I guess we should start by saying, have any of the Democratic presidential primary candidates said no, or they haven't decided yet?
Right. I don't know, but but you think that the Democratic majority has a right not to commit suicide, but I know that the hard left wants, they wants to make they're good at it, exactly. But it's a great question. I've been getting emails all day long from various groups on both sides of the aisle, sign the petition to impeach. And that was by a conservative Republican group. I got that today. And then, you get to defend the president ones. And then, there's certainly a lot of discussion out there.
And is it impeach? Is it all on obstruction?
All on obstruction.
Yeah.
All on obstruction. Yep. And I think Mueller was pretty clear. I think what he was trying to do, he was announcing two things. Why did he hold the news conference? He was, I'm getting out. I'm closing shop, and this is your duty as I see it.
And do you agree with any of the criticism that he passed the buck to Congress?
I don't. I like Mueller a lot, and it may be just that I found myself in the habit of defending him when he was getting smeared, because this is the guy who's really given a lot of service to the country.
Yes.
For God's sakes, he was a conservative Republican, forever. And not a leak out of that committee, and so I've been in the habit of defending him, and I genuinely think he was trying to. I mean, he looked at it as a fact-finding mission, and he was trying to do it the best way he could, and release the information, and then Congress would decide. I don't think he was expecting Barr to spin it so kind of shamelessly, frankly. And so he felt like he had to step in there again. But maybe he could have done it better. But I'm not a Mueller bashing guy. I think he did his best, and his best is better than I would do, certainly.
Well, it's funny because I was going to bring Barr up next, because today the Democrats said that they are going to vote to hold him, whether or not to hold him in contempt for refusing to release the unredacted Mueller report. And of course,
I think anybody should be held in contempt for not refusing to testify. I think that's fair game, and I think you have to do that.
Okay.
I think if we get in the habit of not testifying based on who is in the majority, we got a real problem. We have real problems already, but that seems to be that would be a fundamental problem.
So you're saying anyone who gets a subpoena, or is it an invitation? I guess it depends on what the terms are, but to appear, that you have to appear, and if you don't, you're in contempt.
Yes, and you could go in there if you get subpoenaed. You could go in there as a belligerent witness, and you can go in there and Barr is certainly capable enough to turn the tables on his questioners. He's a very bright, experienced Washington guy, but I think if you get a subpoena, you need to show up, or you pay the price for it. You have to keep a functioning, a government, with proper safeguard. I mean, you have to.
Yeah. the American public needs to know.
My take, yeah.
I agree. Well, so where's Hope Hicks? Hope Hicks was subpoenaed, wasn't she, or she was called to testify?
Yeah, she was subpoenaed, and boy, Maggie Haberman caught hell over that story, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, it's
defense. Her colleagues across the industry came to her defense.
Right? And it's I mean, Maggie's often beat up by people on the right, and the left really went after her this time, led by who else but Andrew Ocasio-Cortez. But yeah, I don't know what Hope Hicks decided, but I would, if you're subpoenaed, I just don't see how you skip that. And I get that they're playing presidential privilege. I mean, there's a legal question there, but there should be a fairly cut and dry answer on that. Either kind of a yay or nay. But you could also go and show up and say, I will not answer that question based on presidential privilege. You could sit there with the counselor. The White House could send somebody to be with you. You could do it, but you would still honor the process, because once we abandon the process, then we're screwed. And it's and it's tit for tat no matter who's in the White House. We set that precedent up and forget it, and we're in trouble.
So are we still working from the baseline that everyone, the Democrats in Congress and largely the media, are furious that Trump got elected in the first place, and they hated Trump from day one, and they were determined to participate in his failure, and that everything that since day one is motivated by bringing him down or discrediting him or embarrassing him. I mean, do you think that's a fair assessment, whether you agree with it or not, of exactly what's happened?
I do, but he's given them stuff to work with.
Yeah.
I think you're 100% right. I mean, I think it was almost like from the political left, they see it as a test of their patriotism a little bit, that they need to take this imposter down. And yes, to all the above that you mentioned, but he's given them things to work with. I mean, every day he does, and of course sometimes he does it on purpose, and he just likes to make them crazy. But yeah, but where I think that they're correct is when you walk on constitutional norms, and those processes really matter, and I think those have to be defended in a completely apolitical way from both sides. And when people start to be flexible with the Constitution or with the rules of the Congress, based out of partisan considerations, that's a big mistake, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think the Democrats have had plenty of reasons to go after him, but they were going to go after him anyway. I mean, yes, definitely.
I've got to go do some homework and go back to the very first year of Bush, George W. Bush, after the Supreme Court ruling, that the 5-4 ruling that led to Gore's defeat, and see, the Democrats at the same time are rooting so much for W's failure. Again, he was so discredited, and then we all know that the big inflection point, and that's an understatement, was 9/11 and how the president
and the war
formed and rallied before things got went way south again. But the country did rally when he stepped up. His response to September 11th in those the moments and the weeks after, there was a bit of a, I don't know, détente's the right word. Maybe we finally had some non-political, I don't want to call it bipartisan, but unity. But they certainly set out for blood from day one. They were mad that he was, it was a dynasty. It was, he stole the election.
Yep.
Jeb was the governor of Florida. It was on and on and on. But this is that on steroids. And I'm not defending, I agree with you that Trump absolutely more than contributed to. He's probably been the biggest factor in fueling all of this. But to my mind, there's just no question that everybody here set out to ruin him from day one.
Yeah, and the press too. I mean, I don't think there's any question in it. And yes, they were given plenty of valid material to work with. I get that. But when you go back to George W. Bush, and you looked at the Iraq War, it was as soon as President Obama came into the White House, the Iraq War vanished. It was like Iraq didn't exist, Afghanistan didn't exist. Where, the week before when Bush was the president, it was just 24 hours a day, all the terrible things going on in the war. And you look at that kind of in the protests with the mothers, whatever they're called, the pink people, whatever they were. They stopped protesting suddenly. They don't care about their kids in war anymore. And it was just so stark that yeah. And there was a little bit of that with I think Hannity and others when Obama came in, and I was no fan of Obama and criticized him for 8 solid years. Although I think he's a decent guy as a person. Yes. But there were a lot of Republicans that just from the beginning said we're looking to take down his administration any way we can. And so it's been that way, it seems, since George H.W. Bush, who you work for. It maybe with Clinton there was a little bit of back and forth, a little bipartisanship between he and Gingrich. They got a few things done, but it's been a bad run, no question.
Yeah,
now they're not even playing anymore. It's just I had a friend who worked for a senator on the Hill and was fairly senior, and she had lunch with her a few weeks ago, and she said, it's not even like you don't even look at each other in the hallways, like talk to each other. You got to be kidding me. This is just pure Hatfields and McCoys blood. Like just you just do anything to kill the other side, anything.
Well, God, I don't even know where to begin. One of the things that bothers me is that this next generation of Capitol Hill staffers and people in Washington never saw it when it actually worked.
Right.
It worked. They were dignified, respectful, wars that were waged, in the halls of Congress over legislation and, grassroots politics stuff that went on out in the, across the country in different districts. But really, there was so much other good stuff, the relationships you talked about. And this even went on during campaigns. Not just after, campaigns were over. And to think now that, the 23-year-olds who are getting involved, all they see is this, it's really discouraging. That bothers me enormously.
Yeah, and that's what they think politics is. It's definitely a different game. Maybe it changes back at some point. Who knows? Liz, do you think anything happens on infrastructure? Do you think just for self-interest on both sides they put something together?
I don't, because I think what you said a few minutes ago, I think they're heading down the impeachment path. And I think I think they've got to run on it. They in 2018 in the midterms, they ran on healthcare and they won. The Democrats, they won. The Republicans had, repeal and replace, what was in danger, what was in jeopardy, but they ran on it. And I don't think they have anything to run on right now. And so I think the only thing they can run on is getting rid of Trump. And so I think they're going to spend any time. They're not solving any problems. They're not solving opioids. They're not solving infrastructure. They're not solving homelessness. And God knows they're not solving immigration. So I have to tell you, I'm discouraged. I don't think they're going to do infrastructure. And I don't think Trump's going to even try. I think probably what he's got going for him, which is the strongest card any president has, is the economy. And if he can talk about that and get through the next year, 12 months to 15 months, and the tariffs don't completely screw up the success and the gains, he can run on deregulation success.
Yeah.
Look at the employment.
That's probably the best thing that he did. Yeah, is the deregulation.
Look at the employment. Look at employment. Look at the stock market. And look, his base is going to turn out. Look what he's doing at the state legislative level. Everything he said he was going to do. Look what's going on state by state on the social issues. His base is going to reward him for that. So I think these Democrats are making a really big mistake. They don't have anything to run on other than being anti-Trump.
Which is funny. I remember Hillary Clinton's campaign for the entire year. It's what is she running on? It just there was nothing there, and you get that same thing going on now. You're right; it's just anti-Trump. How do you think he's doing on China, Liz? How do you think that's playing out for this administration?
I think that unfortunately, I think he was doing well on the messaging on week 1, maybe week 1 and 2, and now he's got himself all, of course, his knickers in and out again over Mexico,
right?
And conflating immigration with tariffs. I have to tell you, I don't disagree with him on that. I don't support him completely, and it's much more nuanced than just punishing Mexico for not doing more about controlling the flow of illegals. But I think that a lot of people agree with him on that. Even the same people who won't say publicly that they voted for him. You know what?
Wait, you mean which on China?
No, I'm talking about imposing the tariffs on Mexico. I'm saying tariffs
on Mexico. Yeah,
China.
Yeah, I think you and I have always agreed that I think he almost always wins on the hard line immigration.
I think he does, and the fact
issues.
The fact that he turned, immigration into a trade issue, Congress, Chuck Grassley is up in arms about it. I don't know if you saw that. Did you see that?
I did, yeah.
Sets trade policy, and we should never do the two. Well, why don't you do something about immigration policy? Chuck, you've been sitting in that freaking Senate for the last 40 years, and here we are. So I got no time for someone like Chuck Grassley, who has done nothing on immigration. So if this is what Trump needs to do to get everyone's attention, and he conflates things that they should be two separate lanes, I wouldn't criticize. I'm not going to criticize him for that.
Yeah, I'm not either. I'm not sure. I don't know what Mexico can do, but presumably they can do more. But I think Trump has won in a major way on his description of the immigration issue as a humanitarian crisis. I mean, that was considered. That was laughed at by CNN and others when it first came out, and that's now an axiom. I mean, it's 130,000 last month. I mean, there's a humanitarian crisis at the border. I mean, it's bad. It's so bad, and with the kids, and I wonder if Trump pays a penalty because the numbers are going up for not getting anything done. I don't think so, because I think his core supporters understand that Congress, ultimately is the one holding back more progress.
Well, and I think that the bumper sticker on this is we are in the laws, and you've got legal immigration is great and welcome, and we want it and we need it. Getting back to that line is so important, because we've gotten way into how many kids are in detention and how many families were separated and all these horrible things. Nobody can watch that on TV and not say, "Oh God, I hate this." I mean, it's awful.
Right.
But let's get back to the beginning here, right? These people, I don't care how sympathetic the cause, they're coming here illegally, and we've got to do something about that. We'll talk. There's asylum, and then there's, this influx of illegals that are coming in under that banner that really are not really seeking asylum. They just want to come here. And I put this all in the Congress. I'm telling you, I do.
So, me too. So do I. And then the states, like the driver's license issue in New York.
That's what I want to. I'm going to go to that. Let's talk about your.
Yeah,
it's a fabulous.
What's the normalization? Like the Democrats just keep wanting to normalize illegal immigration. And again, I get it. I know people. My town is probably 40% illegal. You know what I mean? The people I know and see at school and the rest of it, I get the humanitarian side of it, but you still have to you need to be working towards, that set of laws. And the Democrats are just on such the wrong side of it. They want to take down any barrier or any distinction between citizenship and non-citizenship. And here in New York, in the place that was hit, during 9/11, the hardest, here in New York, we're about to weaken driver's license laws to allow undocumented residents to have licenses. It's crazy. You don't know where they're coming from, and you're giving them government issued ID. It just seems nuts to me, but that's going to happen this week probably in New York.
You were literally legitimizing a crime. That's what you're doing, because it's criminal. That's true. It is a crime to come here illegally. I can't wrap my head around that at all. Not in any way, shape, or form. You want to come up with some other kind of idea, I don't know what it is, to give a driver's license. It sounds extreme to say, but you can understand why people who really react so strongly to say, well, what's the difference then? What's the point of being a citizen? I mean, what's the benefit? What's the upside? What's the distinction between people who come here and follow the process and follow the rules and the laws and do it the right way, and those of us who were also born here, and then this?
Right, and now you have a couple municipalities and more to follow, almost certainly, that are allowing non-Americans to vote in municipal elections. And it's just, what's the distinction? What?
And the people who feel the most strongly about this are the immigrants who did come here legally and who followed the path. Talk to them about how they feel about this issue.
Right. The thing that drives me crazy also on the driver's license issue is the national security aspect of it. I worked on this issue for about 4 years around the country, and the 9/11 Commission expressly noted that the 9/11 terrorists 19 terrorists had 38 driver's licenses, and they got them when Atta got caught in a traffic stop without a license. And he realized, you need one of these things in America. So they went out there and they got licenses from various states. And at that point, like in Florida at that point, you could get a license with a P.O. box address. You could mail in and get a license. And so what we realized that we're only as strong as our weakest link state, because the weakest, the most accessible driver's license, the weakest or laxest laws give you a document that can get you into the White House, can get you into the halls of Congress, can let you attend flight school training, can get you aboard that plane that day, can let you rent cars, apartments, wire money internationally, which they did with those licenses. Those are de facto national identification cards. And, Real ID has come through, and that was the success of the clients that I work with in those years to establish a minimum national standard for state-issued ID. And so as of October 2020, you won't be able to board airplanes. It won't be accepted as identification on domestic travel if you don't have what's called a Real ID. It's got some biometric indicators and background checks, including Social Security, ITIN numbers, that kind of thing. But New York will be giving out a second license, which can be used for all other forms of ID, not travel, to people who they don't know where they're coming from. So, forget somebody from Mexico or Guatemala. It could be from any country and with some, people with really evil intent. That identification helps them hide in this country and go unnoticed. You check into a hotel, driver's license, please. You go anywhere, driver's license, please. Go cash check, driver's license, please. You just start to notice where you pop it out. It's the only ID you ever pop out.
Well, I guess, what is Cuomo saying about this? That its time has come. They do this whole nonsense. They've been doing this nonsense since the early 2000s. It was 4 years. Well, what they say is that undocumented citizens are going to drive anyway, so shouldn't they be properly licensed and insured? And it's like so people are going to break the law, so we got to change the law. What? Kids. Oh my God, your kids are going to complain. So just give them all the ice cream. Yeah. Right, exactly. Why don't you start giving, or start having teenagers drive it at 14 and say, well, they're going to drive anyway. You may as well give them a license. It's nuts. But that's the reason Cuomo will sign it. It's done in New York. It's done. And even the business groups have caved in, which is unfortunate. And they're, because the insurers, the insurance market wants the money. They're going to get the premiums on it. Oh, God. And so, all the reasons why we passed Real ID and the entire study of the 9/11 Commission on this issue are thrown out the window because nobody wants to look like a bad guy and look like you're making life more difficult for people here illegally. It's nuts. Somehow I feel like the rest of us are going to be paying for this. It's just another one of these things. Well, it's also another example, frankly, of just how divided this country is. You look at the states that are passing these very restrictive abortion laws. By the way, another thing, Jill O'Brien last night, she's all in for, late term. She's in for anything at any time, anywhere, basically, bottom line. Yeah, she'll abort it 3 months, right, exactly. Yes, tomorrow, she doesn't care. 3 months after birth, post-birth. No, really, she couldn't care less. And she turned around and wagged her finger at Chris Wallace and said, and you and Fox News are calling it infanticide. And to which he responded, it's not polite to insult your host, which actually I thought was funny. He didn't even engage on the merits. But, you have... So we won't call it infanticide, we'll call it baby killing. How's that? Yeah, exactly. I know. We'll call it your choice, Kirsten. Would that work for you? Right. Yeah. So, in fact, she blamed the Republicans for setting this up as a false choice, which I did want someone to press her on it, but it was a very polite evening, so nobody did. But I'm digressing. But my point is that look how divided the country is. You have states like New York that are passing a law like this, and you've got Alabama and Mississippi passing, true criminality, around abortion. Yeah.
Yep. And to some extent that's the way the country is set up, and there's benefit to that, but you're right, the extremes, are popping up all over the place. And that's certainly a sign of the times. I just realized that we're way over our time, I think. We've run over our mark by about 6 minutes. I think Rick has been very generous to us.
Very kind.
All
right. So we're going to
let some extra time,
Yep. All right, Billy. Next week, same time, same bad channel.
Same time, same place. I will be watching Predict It. See what's moving.
I'm going to take out my dollar. There you go. Thanks for that.
I'm throwing everything in tonight.
Are you getting a percentage of all those bets?
Bye. Yeah.
Aloha. Goodbye.
Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for listening.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Well, now wait a minute. I'm talking about America, sweet America. God done shed his grace on thee. He crowned thy good. Yes, he did. Heavy brotherhood from sea